Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Weekend Grill. I'm Adrian Deha, and with me is Paul Sebastiani, host of SEN Overnight Crowd.
Oh, yes.
Welcome, Paul. It's good to have you here.
Let's have a conversation, mate. This
Shall
is what
we?
it's all about. What a show this is going to be between you and I. This has been months in the planning, I think. So,
It has.
This is going to be a good one. It's almost like we're just having a chat over coffees. So looking forward to doing this. We're not going to be shirking the task. I'll give you the tip. Mate.
No, we're not. We're going to be bringing the heat every week with the AFL season. The most entertainment sport in the country.
Oh, yes.
Round one has just been upon us. We've seen a lot of mixed results. A lot of...
How quick's it gone? You just think
really
every time. We always do this. It always comes around and you think, oh, yep. The season, it's a while away, and then it comes around and bang. Round one's done. It's finished, and we've got all these talking points.
Talking is done.
Yep.
The action begins, and it has begun in a big, big way. Yep. Thursday night, we saw Carlton and Richmond involved in a draw. Friday, we saw the Pies roll the Cats. Any surprises there?
Not the draw from my end.
No?
I'm sure those of you who listen to overnights and watch the Jumper Punch, of course, give my show a shameless plug. I was actually very confident the Richmond-Carlton game was going to be a draw.
You were. And I remember distinctively last week we spoke about the Port Adelaide and Brisbane game, and you were very, very confident. Very bullish on the Power.
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure if that was because of the way of their pre-season, or was just you didn't have a lot of faith in the Lions.
Nah, I was more looking towards the upside of Port just after last season. You can't, and we always talk about this too, and a lot of people chat about this, but until it actually comes to fruition, I don't think you get a sense of how important it is. A clean pre-season.
Yeah.
For a whole squad is just so important. Last year, Port Adelaide had Charlie Dixon go down. They had a number of niggles. Rosie was sore. Butters and Dersman, all these blokes were out with niggles or injuries. And, you know, when you have those 2 to 3 months, that are interrupted, it just ruins your season. And that's what happened to Port last season. Whereas coming into 2023, they had a clean bill of health. The lads were up and about. And even though their preseason form, in inverted commas, didn't look great, I was very confident that they'd be ready for a shake, especially in front of their home fans.
Yeah,
like round one, if you're home at Adelaide, mate, you've got to rock up. And
you want to make sure you take full advantage of it, 100%.
They would get up, looked at it that way, and just sort of. I don't mind Brisbane later in the year, but I just thought that game as a setup, Port Adelaide were ready to rock and roll. And truth be told, that second half was pretty strong.
Yeah, it was huge, and then obviously we moved on to see the Swans roll the Gold Coast Suns pretty convincingly. We saw Melbourne have basically three or four premiership players out and do a convincing job over the Bulldogs, which we may touch on a little bit later, which I thought the Bulldogs were pretty bad, if we're going to be frank about it. And then we went to Sunday, and we got Adam Kingsley in his first game as a head coach, and it showed a lot of character to come back from half time, but from being down. Against the Adelaide Crows.
Yes.
And then, we had Brad Scott with Essendon and Hawthorn, who, I think we...
Do we have to mention Do we have to mention Essendon?
Yeah, we do. We're going to be fair. We're going to be fair here. We need to be need to have a clinical approach.
You'll have to bring me into line then.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure I will. And then we got to the last game where Ross Lyon made his...
The boss.
The boss, he's back. And, they saved the worst game till last. And, no, it was very good to see Ross Lyon back. He's a character. He's an ornament to the game. And it was fantastic to see him back. And, look, the situation at Fremantle, I know that you want to speak about Nat Fyfe and where you think he's at his career, which I know is big. But... just as we're going to air right now, some news has come to light regarding Shane McAdam from Adelaide, who went straight to the tribunal.
Yep.
They have given him 3 weeks.
Correct.
And he has elected, or Adelaide have elected to challenge that.
They've gone to DRS.
Yeah.
They've gone to appeal.
You have any words on that? Any opinion?
I'm always of the opinion that as soon as they go to the tribunal, you're stuffed. That's my initial take out of it all, and I kind of get it, but Now the appeal comes in. This is why, and even on the show, the other shows I do it, I just not refuse to comment, but I refuse to make a judgment because in all probability, you're going to be wrong. To me, the way it looks...
Does anyone know?
No.
Does anyone have a clue?
I'll tell you now, I don't even think the AFL know. They have a criteria. Right. Like you have and you see, like, and I've seen there's a certain amount of boxes that they have to tick off. They have to say, is it low, medium, or high impact? Is it intentional? Is it careless? Do we tick those boxes? And then what's the damage to the player after? Like those first, it's subjective, isn't it?
Well, it is. And I just think I want to put it in a certain way to you where it's almost like a script is being played out here. And let me explain why.
Okay.
So leading up to round one, a lot of the conjecture was about past former players launching some legal action against the AFL for
class action,
for concussion, which there is a lot of them, which I do have a strong opinion about. Then coincidentally, we see 3 people suspended. And what were they for? Head-high contact. Like you just can't make any of this up. Like it's hilarious. Like, the more and more I think about it, it's almost a joke. But yeah, just in regards to this AFL concussion saga that the AFL faces itself in, leading up to the season with past players launching some legal action. It does not sit right with me one bit.
In what way? Because it's a can of worms that...
It is, and I want to make sure that I don't mince my words and I don't get things twisted.
I know you don't. You definitely won't.
I want to make it abundantly clear that I empathise with these players.
Right.
I don't know what it's like being concussed, so I don't want to make that sort of judgment or call. But I will say this, first and foremost, when in their playing days, the AFL and the club doctors are that. They are doctors. Naturally, it's in their nature to have the player's best interests at heart. They would not jeopardise any position of the player in putting them back on the field or not making the right call if it wasn't in the best form of their health.
Yeah.
Right? Now, here's the thing. These players have been retired for X amount of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've played this game since they were a kid. You were taught as you were growing up that you do play a contact sport, right? You had a talent which was recognised by an AFL club.
Mm-hmm.
You were picked up. You were given a contract, a contract that is, let's be real about it, above average.
Oh,
right?
Of course,
like,
for the average person. It's well above average for what the average person would earn.
Absolutely,
clearly.
And as I said, what happened was, it's very unfortunate, right? However, the fact that they're trying to get legal action, the fact that they're trying to get money, I assume it is money. If we're being real, they're suing for money.
You ain't going to court if you ain't going to receive a kickback cash-wise.
Absolutely. Now, do we need to remind them what they signed up for? Because this is the part that annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they have a concussion on X date. Let's just put a date on it, April 1st, 2010, right? They miss the next week or the rest of that particular game.
Mm-hmm.
They come back and play an X amount of years. So not only are they collecting a check and their bonuses and their match payments, etc., right? Now it seems to me as if like, I can't get a job, the money's dried up, why don't we try and revert back to this? And I don't want to try and push that sort of agenda or go down that avenue, but it is very, very clear to me that is the way it's going down. Now, I have a simple solution for this, and it's going to set the tone on the first adjudication of whatever the magistrate does.
What's the precinct going to be?
Well, this is the thing, because if they adjudicate it in the players' way, you watch all these cases come through.
Skyrocket.
Right? They will triple.
Skyrocket.
Now, it's very simple. If the magistrate does award it in the players' favour, it's very simple. The payout should be whatever the payout is, less whatever they made after concussion was actually incurred. E.g., the magistrate says, Mr. So-and-so, we award you $1 million for all the damages, etc.
Yep.
However, it should be $1 million less whatever you received in payments and bonuses after your concussion. Because how is it that the club, if the club thought you were a flight risk or you were a liability, they would not have renewed your contract after your concussion.
Exactly.
Right? So how is it fair that the club has to pay your wages after your concussion, right? Because in theory, If they thought you were incapable or they thought you went up to the standard or that you were classified as a liability, they would not have given you the next contract in the first place.
Yeah.
So you get $1 million from the magistrate. You earn 400 or 500,000 post your concussion, post the incident, right? Let's say you're on a $400,000 contract on a year, right? So it's $1 million minus the 400,000. So your payout is not $1 million. Your payout is 600,000. Watch how many of them. I mean, each figure is going to vary,
of course,
right? It's case by case. Watch how many of them will withdraw their claim.
Wow.
And this sets a precedent.
No one's spoken about this.
I know they haven't. And I've been told to preach this. Someone has reached out to me and said, you should speak your mind. And here I am.
Wow.
Right, we're on our first episode. I might be controversial. I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but the facts are the facts. Like the fact of the matter is, you can't get 2 licks of the ice cream. Yeah? You were raised the way that you played the game when you were younger was you are fully aware that it is a contact sport.
There's an imminent
Do I go
risk.
to my employer? Sorry. Do I go to my employee and go, my eyesight hurts because I'm looking at the computer? So in 30 years, I'm going to go, oh, my eyesight's worse. Oh, I'm just gonna sue you because my eyesight's worse because I used to work in front of a computer. No, I don't do that. I mean, in what stretch of the imagination is that actually possible?
It's a very fair point.
I have nothing else to say, and I hope. Look, I understand that not everyone is going to agree, and I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
And again, I'll reiterate: I don't want to make it out as if I don't see the players and all the past players aspect. I certainly get it. I don't know what it's like being concussed.
Yeah.
Right. And I empathize with them, and I feel for them, and I wrap my arms around them. However, you need to be realistic in what world we're living in. You have to be fair. You have to give to get. You can't just take.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, and then
very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look,
and I think you've also got to take into account that the research and the science and the way that they looked into it back then was completely different to what they do now. It's like, now we've got all this evidence that's come forward to say or to suggest that it was caused by this, this, and this. So now we've got to revert back to the past and say, okay, well, it happened because of this. And now we know in 2023, we know a bit more about concussion and CTE and all these physical and brain issues. We've got to backtrack now and say, okay, it was caused for this, so now we need to pay out these players. So it's that whole I do think bit with the contract.
Well,
no one's spoken about it.
Oh, well, I'm not sure if anyone has, but I'm trying. I tried to brainstorm to see if anyone did.
Yeah.
But look, it's a different type of approach, if you want to put it. And I do think it is something that the AFL, if they have an inkling that they may be in some trouble, it is something if they ask me, I'm not saying they are obviously, but if they ask me what would your suggestion be, I'd be advising them to speak to their general counsel and say, yeah, look, we sort of plead guilty, whatever, but hang on a sec, like you can't just have two cracks. There needs to be some sort of like the risk that you have to take on some form of risk.
Yeah.
So, look.
Would you say the argument against the AFL is like, oh, you had a duty of care for the player and you didn't provide it? Is that what they would argue?
What was the duty of care?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
What is the duty of care?
I know.
If the club doctor assesses you fit and able, the club doctor's not Nostradamus. They don't know in 15 years or 10 years after you've retired.
Exactly.
And you want to put it on them.
And especially now that the research is better than it was back then.
Well,
so what are you doing?
The thing. So now you're going, these people that have cared for me my whole AFL career, it's basically spit in their face. You're going to the club doctor and the club's, look, you gave me this opportunity, you gave me all this money, that luxury watch that you have, that house with the white picket fence that you have, the private school education that your kids went to. How did you get that?
Yeah.
Tell me how you got that. You got that from an AFL club giving you a contract.
Exactly.
You didn't get that from having a basic job.
Yeah, spot on.
Right?
That's true.
So these things need to be considered. And the worst part is, if it does cost the AFL this much money, the way I'm looking at it is they're stealing from the future. I don't want to label them as thieves, but in theory, they're taking funding away from the future game. That's what they're doing. Where's the AFL going to get the revenue? I'm not saying that they're short of $1, but where is the AFL going to find all the... As I said, if the first one goes in the player's way, watch them climb out of trees. They will come in droves.
I know.
And that's money. That's time. That's litigation.
How long is it going to drag out?
Imagine the mental health. Imagine the mental health that these players are going to be put through when they have to rock up to court and testify and they get grilled and they get cross-examined. Talk to me. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to be able to see?
They're going to be grilled by the courts.
They're going to get grilled and cross-examined.
Yeah.
And tell me what benefit we're talking in the mental health space. Tell me what benefit that does for their mental health.
No, none.
None.
It'll probably make the matter worse.
Worse. But yeah, look, we're probably one of those situations where we can sit back and watch how it unfolds. It is something that's going to be lurking in the background the whole year. I don't think it'll take front stage. Hopefully the AFL footy does all the talking on field. But
you know it never does.
Yeah,
it does to a certain extent, but you know there's going to be something.
Yeah.
Something's going to pop up that we haven't heard about. What do you think's going to happen? That's the big question. How do you know?
What do I think is going to happen?
If you put your judge's hat on,
if I put my judge's hat on, I think the magistrate or the judge is going to rule in favour of the players.
Jeez,
I do.
Wow.
There's too much weight. I know the judge and the magistrate.
Do you think did they have to take into account public perception?
Absolutely, they all do.
The image, huh?
They all do.
Yeah.
Right, and the last thing AFL wants is to tarnish their image. It's such a prestigious image that they have, and they're doing a wonderful job. Like, in my opinion, the AFL at the moment is in a very good space, and it's no shock that all this media attention came surprisingly, or how do we say it, conveniently, a week or 2 weeks before the season started.
Yeah, exactly. It's always that. It's always that, isn't it? It comes up they come up at the most convenient times.
It's as I said, it's almost like we're reading a script.
Yes, exactly.
But look, we'll move on. I know you wanted to speak about the Gold Coast Suns. Let's just put it out there. Their performance against Sydney, not taking anything away from Sydney, but that performance from Gold Coast was nothing less than deplorable.
Yeah, that was shocking.
So the stage is yours. You want to talk about it? Let's chat.
So I'm looking at it from the perspective of how many sporting teams outside of Brisbane in Queensland are genuinely up there in competitions. Maybe you look at the North Queensland Cowboys, okay, but they're just pure rugby league.
Sure.
Look at an AFL perspective, right? And I'm looking at all the other teams around that area that have failed. You've had North Queensland Fury, gone. Gold Coast Titans, let's be frank, unless you actually mention them and tell people to go on goldcoasttitans.com.au. No one's searching the Gold Coast Titans.
It's very, very true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you actually go to the ground, it's not a buzzing precinct, that area there, that Carrara Stadium area. Like, it's just plonked in the middle of nowhere, really. And that's not like, it's a beautiful area, but it just doesn't feel like a sports area, to be honest. Like, it's just not
the vibes and the energy and the energy around the area.
There's no buzz. And then you look at the on-field stuff, and I think Stuart Dew's
which is the most important thing.
Well, exactly. Which I think Stuart Dew's actually a really good coach. But you know what the problem is, and this is the thing: you can have a great coach, right? But if the ecosystem of the club is stuffed, you can put the best people into that coaching role. It's not going to have an impact. They've got some talented players on that list. But I just don't think that there is where do you create the connection and culture from at a club like that? One, it's not an AFL state. Two, I mean, who actually wants to grow up and say, I want to play for the Gold Coast Suns? No one. No one does.
If you find me someone, please give them my mobile number.
That club, and I do admire Cochrane, who stood down as the president of the club. I do admire him because he backed up his club at every given degree, and that's understandable. But it's a money pit, that joint.
Yeah.
Honestly, teams go...
The cost-benefit analysis.
I'll tell you now, teams outside of Brisbane that are going to come into new competitions, whether it's the NRL and whether it's the... From an NRL perspective, I think they've done it okay, but from an AFL perspective, it's just been a graveyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so, and I just don't see any improvement with the... They have improved slightly with the talent that they've had, and they have been a little more competitive than they were previously. But even if they did, they can't win the premiership. Gold Coast can't win a flag in the next 4 to 5 years.
I can't see it happening in the next...
I could be completely wrong, but there's nothing...
They would need to be touched by God.
To win a premiership. There is no foundation with which that club can be set to say, because they don't have a big enough fan base.
True.
They don't have a fan base that's going to push them all the way.
Very true.
And that is, and you know how adamant I am on that kind of stuff. The fans set the culture, fans set the standards. And they're getting 5,000 people to a game. There's no one there.
3,500 of them supporting the other team.
There was no one. There was no one there the other night.
Yeah.
And the conditions are rubbish. It's muggy. The football's crap up there. So it is.
I'm not being it's
rubbish.
You're right.
It is.
I don't disagree with anything you say.
Sydney are a proud club. We know. Like, they just regenerate. John Longmire, horse is amazing.
Tick.
But I looked at the way Sydney went. They bottomed out to 15th, 16th for a 2-year period. They played off in a grand final. Like, mate, Gold Coast have never made the 8. They've never made the 8 in their existence. They've had Gary Ablett go through there.
That's facts.
They've had all these players go through. And I understand. They lost Lynch. They lost Prestia. I get it. I understand that. But it's more than that. It's way more than that. There's a deep-seated cultural issue with that club, and it's through no fault of their own. It sort of is. It is to a certain extent, because you need to cultivate and create that type of environment. But it's almost like, and I understand what the AFL are doing. They're trying to capture a new market. I get it.
Sure.
I get it. But that as a club, I just don't think they have. I just don't see it as a successful venture at the moment. Yeah. I don't see people jumping off the page to sign up for Gold Coast membership. And
they all want to leave there.
Yeah, and it's not. Again, it's nothing personal. It's just it was almost like they were set up to fail.
Sure.
That's the way it looks to me, because they're just pouring all this money in, and there are only a handful of clubs that are sustainable in the AFL without AFL funding.
Absolutely. And
I understand that. You know, it's that top-down filtered cash system where only 4 or 5 clubs could sustain themselves without AFL funding. And like, even Carlton's not even one of them now.
Yeah, I think West Coast will be one.
West Coast, I think Hawthorn, Collingwood, maybe a few others. And how long have those clubs been around for?
Yeah, I know, that's true.
Years.
Yeah.
They've got history to sell. They've got marketability. They've got success to sell. They've got a huge fan base. Whereas this is just a money pit, really. So I don't know what's going to happen with that club. If there's no success there in the next couple of years, it's just
they are a club. They are a club. I think we should follow throughout the whole year. I think we should give them a chance, even though they've had 15 of them.
Yeah.
I do think we should give Stuart Dew and the Gold Coast Suns a chance, so we can assess them, in the correct manner in due course.
I worry when your team doesn't give a yelp in round 1.
Massive signs of failure.
I worry for you.
Yeah.
I just
if that's the case, where does that leave the Lions? I know that's another point you want to talk about.
Oh, that was shocking.
If you're saying that, if they don't give a yelp in the first round, where does that leave Brisbane? Mate,
Brisbane.
They should have stayed on the tarmac.
Yeah.
Mate, they should have turned the plane around. They should have, mate, save some petrol. Turn the plane around.
Save the carbon emissions.
Mate, talk to me about the Lions. They're a rabble.
I actually think they could be genuine milk drinkers.
We can't say what we want to say, but I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I think they could be genuine nonnies. They were shocking on the weekend. They were terrible. I don't want to draw to too many conclusions in round 1, but wow.
Agreed.
You want to start your season off with a good result, or even if you do a good performance, even if you do lose, start off with a strong performance, right? Look at Geelong, for argument's sake.
Sure.
Maybe they've reached the pinnacle, right?
Right.
Their performance was still good. I know they conceded 120 points, but they still played well.
Absolutely.
Right? Even, there are a couple of other teams as well. Look at, even for argument's sake, I know West Coast, they were off the boil, right? And we know where they are, but they were still okay. They were still there or abouts, and I know they lost to North Melbourne, but North Melbourne were geared up, and I understand that too, but I don't know. There was just something there that I didn't.
You didn't like.
Nah, the way they wilted away in that second half, they were shocking in that second half. And mate, they were geared up this year. Gunston, Dunkley, Ashcroft. I don't want to put on a kid.
No, it's not on the kid. No, we know that.
But had to be.
Well, it's interesting because both those teams out of that game have massive tests this week.
Huge.
Port have got the Pies, who I want to speak about the Pies. As much as it kills me, I do want to talk about them. I think what they're doing is very, very good. And the Lions have Melbourne, who in their last 10 interstate games have not lost.
Yeah, that's an intriguing thing that you said.
That's not.
Have you got the result? Can you go through that? Actually,
yeah, I can.
Let the weekend Griil audience.
This is from Twitter. I don't recall who it was, but someone did put it up. But round 23, 2022, Melbourne beat the Lions 58 points. Round 20 last year, they beat Fremantle by 46 points. Round 18, they beat Power. I mean, look, some of these teams are average, but look,
big winning margins, though.
In the grand final, I know that was the way they beat the Bulldogs by 74 points. In the preliminary final, they beat the Cats by 83 points. This Melbourne team travels well.
They do.
And their performance on Saturday, they justified why they should be premiership favourites. Let me tell you who they had out. Bailey Fritsch.
4 blokes.
Right? Christian Salem. Yeah? There was a couple of others I don't recall off the top of my head, but I do remember both of them.
Yep.
Viney.
Viney
out. Like these,
he's
these,
plenty of
these
grunt
are,
in the midfield.
these are 3 premiership players and play a pivotal role in their
100%,
team.
100%.
Like I think the D's, I wouldn't say have a point to prove after last year. The only thing with the D's is it's going to be up here.
Yeah.
I noticed last year that there was a few times where their mental application was falling short.
And had a couple of niggles.
I know,
but
if you're 10% off the boil mentally in your approach,
you're done,
and your intensity,
you're done.
Which is some part of last year is where they were lacking.
You're done.
You're gone.
Correct.
But I want to move on to the Pies, and they played exceptional on Friday night against Geelong. They play, in my opinion, the best brand of AFL. The best brand of footy in the AFL at this point in time.
Tough to disagree with that.
They run in numbers. They hunt in packs.
Corridor.
And they have speed. And speed this year, I think, is going to kill. I think you need to have speed. What it does do, though, as a potential scenario is leave them susceptible on the counter-attack.
Out the back, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I do think, though, against teams that have power forwards, I don't think Collingwood want to get in a shootout with a team with power forwards. That's my only concern. However, I like the culture and the ethos that they're building around that club. And I think a lot of it is centered around young kid Nick Dacos, who is nothing short of spectacular. I just want to touch on this kid. Nick Dacos is the truth.
Oh, yeah.
He is the shit, bro. He is the shit. He is the truth. This guy... Right? Let me read you some of his numbers from Friday. 35 disposals, 95% kicking efficiency.
Ridiculous.
9 score involvements. Massive one for me here. 578 metres gained. This guy's a runner.
He's off the charts.
Right? And I don't need to mention the 8 defensive acts.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might say, but what does he do when he doesn't have the ball?
He's a front runner.
I disagree. And it's yet to be proven that he is.
Well, he's one of the fittest players at Collingwood.
Oh, I agree. But what I'm saying is, like, he can defend. Yeah. Like he if need be, he can put in that defensive act. Yeah. The test with Nick Dacos, I think, is going to be is when they apply more attention to him. How is he going to cope? And this is where I think the leadership of Darcy Moore and Scott Pendlebury will step in, and they will give him some protection. Right, because at the moment now, Darcy Moore and Pendlebury, they run that defence along with Noble.
Of course,
right, they are the shot callers.
Yeah.
When Collingwood's in transition, Darcy Moore and Pendlebury are pointing the fingers like they're working on a fucking on a site.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're the guys. They're the guys that are controlling it. So I think they need to protect him. I think they need to be prudent in their thinking and realise that he is going to get more attention.
No one's really put the genuine hard tag on him, which I don't think that's dead in the game.
The guy from Sydney did it twice. Ryan Clark or Stevens?
Clark. Yes, Clark. Yep.
He shut him down twice, effectively. So
more a run with roll. It's not really a hard, genuine tag. It's more a run with roll, I think.
How's Nick Dacos going to be when he's got someone sniffing the conditioner in his hair?
No,
exactly.
Seriously. No, it's true.
How is he going to react? And it's a test for him, and I hope he rises to it. It kills me to say it. I don't need to be more specific about this, but it shits me to tears the fact that he plays for the black and white team. It makes me cry. It makes me so upset. But watching him week in, week out, it does put a bit of a smile on my face because players like this are the face. They're the future.
They are.
Your Sam Walsh's, your Nick Dacos. They're the face of the AFL.
On the magazines.
Absolutely.
Promos. The one thing which I find really interesting is that Collingwood's supposed to be the most hated team in the AFL, but I actually get a feeling that sentiment's changing. A lot of people love Collingwood.
I don't know
Even the
I don't know
neutral.
who you hang around with, mate.
No, from a football perspective.
Yeah.
See, even when their football is good, no one actually gives them the praise.
I've got nothing against Collingwood. It's just that being raised
of course.
in an opposition household.
Of course.
We're taught to dislike them, but
course.
nothing but utmost respect for the way that they play. And I think what you're saying about the sentiment towards them has a lot to do with their coach.
Fly.
He's changed all this around.
Yeah.
Like the job that he's done, the
Crazy
public perception and the way and I think it's his demeanor and his personality.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's brought a different type of spin to him. And I'll tell you now, what he's building with the fans. I'm a massive Liverpool supporter.
Yeah.
I see what Jurgen Klopp has done with our fans.
I think
what
Fly's-
he's doing with the Collingwood fans, they are engaged, they're locked
Unified.
in, and they're unified.
Yep.
And fundamentally, they want the same thing, and,
Yep.
and they know the vision of the club.
Yep.
They can see the path forward.
Yep.
And that has a lot to do with the coach,
Mm.
right? And the whole board, and it's a credit to them. As I said, it kills me to say it, but you got to tell it. We tell it how we see it, and that's how I'm seeing it.
Exactly. I think Fly's got I think he's a silent killer. I actually think he's
He's,
ruthless.
okay.
There are a few things that he said. I know it was tongue in cheek in the presser before the Geelong game, but he goes, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
I like
and
that.
his media manager, he was saying, the media manager didn't really want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So, yeah, I think, and I actually didn't mind. There was something doing the rounds on Twitter. Now, Collingwood, I don't know if it was actually at their training facility or if it was at the MCG. Either way, I think it's a great idea. And they had a wall plaque or a wall poster or a vinyl thing that they had that was saying, the road to 16. Like
wow.
You're the road.
Yeah,
and I'm huge on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
the Boston Celtics do it in the NBA. They've got like a flag of their next NBA championship that's blank.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, what are you coming in for?
This is what we're playing
people
for.
go, it's just talk, it doesn't mean anything. Hang on a minute. I think it actually does mean something because if you actually see it and actually...
And you visualize it?
Yeah, it actually manifests itself out into the world properly, that you actually walk in and subconsciously you're like, oh, shit, actually, yeah, that's what
This is what we come to work for.
Exactly.
This is what we come in to do.
And
This is
people
what
go,
we're about.
Oh, no, that's obvious. That's obvious. Is it? Really? Is it really obvious? Is it?
Yeah.
You don't know what the motivations of people are, and it's obviously judged by the outcome of their actions, but I really like what they're doing at the moment. And people said last year, they were lucky. They won these close games.
It's not luck, Paul.
It's not
Paul, it's not luck.
It's not luck.
It's not. It's
Winning's a habit, mate.
Winning's
a habit.
The forces in nature are not that lazy for that to happen too many times.
No.
If it happens once or twice, okay, I understand,
It's
mate.
not luck.
It happened 10 times, man.
It's not luck.
Like it's I don't think it's luck. No. Look, we'll quickly touch on Nat 5 before we wrap up the show. You want to
Yes.
speak about Nat 5. Tell me, where do you see Matt? How did you see his performance on Sunday against the Saints? And do you think it's a sort of a sliding doors moment, if you want to put it?
Look, I will say that he is coming back off some long-term injuries, and he has been out of the game for a little while. I just can't see him playing up forward.
So is he good enough to go through the middle? Has he lost too many yards in his legs to prevent him from going in the middle?
He had a set shot from like 35, 40 metres. He didn't even make the distance.
He's never been a good
He never has been.
He never has.
So if
He
he's
never
not a
has.
good set shot, why are they playing him?
So do you think he's there
in the
just to,
forward
do
line?
you think he's there just to take up another body?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you have to probably keep a player like him on your list. He's contracted, obviously, and there are some young players coming through at Freo and they need to be taught professionalism and how to reach the heights that maybe he did too. But honestly, he looks singed.
Yeah.
On the weekend.
Yeah, okay.
Legitimately singed, which is not great. And the practice games might have been an indicator into the idea that, okay, well, maybe he can do something this season, but the intensity is just way down in those practice games. You can't judge anything by them, but he was, look, on the proviso that maybe he had a bit of first up syndrome and a bit of ring rust, but
you think he'll be better for the run?
I think he needs to be.
6-year-old gelding going around.
Oh, mate, he needs to be better for the run. I just don't. I don't like the whole. The moment you have to start shifting a player's positions, I don't like.
I see.
It's almost like crossroads. Liam Jones, Mitch McGovern. It's crossroads time. It's like, okay, we can't fit you in the midfield. You've been a midfielder your whole career. We can't fit you in there. Now we need to put you in the forward line.
So we're playing you there.
You don't see it in soccer. How many soccer players do you see? Oh, the bloke can't play centre back anymore, so we're going to turn him into a centre forward.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't work, mate. It doesn't work.
I understand.
Very rarely does it work. So I'm very concerned for him. Very concerned.
Looking forward to round 2 coming up, starting tomorrow night at the MCG, Carlton and the Cats.
Yep.
And then Friday we've got the Lions and the D's.
These
Saturday,
is an interesting one.
Yeah, you are leaning towards the Lions. You think they might bounce back?
Slightly. I think it's going to be closer than what people think.
Yep.
I know Melbourne were very good, but I think just back at the Gabba, Melbourne too. And I know we did touch on it with the concussion, but Cozzy Pickett's gone.
Yeah.
He's not there. So
he's out for 2.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was very good against the Bulldogs.
Yeah?
I was very impressed
he was
very impressed with you.
Maybe he was just trying to flex his muscle. I know people, he's just trying to that nervous that energy, the round 1 energy that players have. He just had to let it out.
What do you make of that, by the way? Because we haven't actually spoken about those tribunal things.
I think they're fair.
Shane McAdam, Cozzy Pickett, and Buddy.
Buddy's one, honestly, has taken a backward seat considering the aggressive nature of the other two. I don't really want to comment on it. The reason is because I don't have any words. I just don't. I don't have any words on it. No, I don't. Who cares? Like, not who cares.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't think there's any point wasting any energy or any time into speaking about it.
2 words, chook lotto, when they come up with these decisions.
Absolutely. We move on to Saturday, 25th of March, MCG. This is going to be, I think, a lot closer than what a lot of people think. The Pies and Port Adelaide. Good test for Port. Port Adelaide will give them a run for their money. I do expect Collingwood to win.
Yep.
I don't think Port will roll over.
No.
I think they're going to be up for it.
Yep.
The Crows and the Tigers. Look, the market here suggests it's going to be a lot closer than what most people think.
From a tipping point of view.
Look, Adelaide did sort of fall off in the second half against the GWS Giants.
Garbage.
I think Richmond will win not much confidence there.
Yep.
The Saints and the Bulldogs. I expect the Dogs to get this done pretty easily. Freo and North Melbourne, who were fantastic in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think Freo will be looking to make a bold statement.
They need to make a bold statement.
They do, and they have a perfect opportunity here. And then we move on to Sunday, where the Swans are versing the Hawks at the SCG.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sydney should touch them up. This could be a bloodbath.
Another
here.
10-goal job.
Yeah, possibly.
Yep.
I don't want to look too far. I mean, look, we never know. Sydney could be off that 5%.
Yeah, exactly.
But I expect Sydney to give them an 8 to 10 goal win easy.
Very good. Very good.
And then we got the ladder leaders Essendon.
Ladder leader Essendon. They are really,
the Suns,
190%.
They're up and about at the Bombers, and it's good for them. You got to give them a little bit of hope. No, look, in all seriousness, they did verse. Let's be real, a bottom 2 side in Hawthorn on Sunday.
Yeah.
But they did beat what they had in front of them.
Yes.
With the cards that they were dealt,
and convincingly.
So we got to give them a few ticks there. And then we've got the last game, the nightcap. We've got West Coast and GWS at 6:20 Eastern time.
That's an intriguing game.
Which I've been looking at the markets closely. I'm pretty sure the market's telling me that you want to be with GWS very early, which is very interesting because the Eagles really need to. They need to show something.
Do you know they have lost 25 of their last 27? The Eagles?
I do now. Yeah.
There you go.
No, I didn't, but I do now. Yeah, wow.
25 of their last 27.
I mean, look, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I mean,
Crazy.
at some stage this year, if they continue the way they're going, Adam Simpson's got to quit with all these reasons.
It's a cut tie scenario.
I mean, like he's just it's getting.
Last year, I get COVID and all that stuff, and they had a heap of injuries. I get it,
but it should be next man up.
Well, I agree.
Drew?
I agree.
Just because you have injuries, the next man up should have that attitude.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's the coach. The coach is he's
yeah. I'll zip through my tips.
Tell me,
Carlton,
sure,
Brisbane, Port Adelaide. I've gone all outsiders in the first 3 rounds, in the first 3 games. Tigers, Bulldogs, Dockers, Swans, Bombers, and Giants to go 2-0.
There we go. Now, that's a wrap. I appreciate
Yes.
the conversation.
Yes.
Appreciate you all for listening in to the Weekend Grill. We'll be back next week to do it all over again. Have a good one.
You too, guys. Enjoy.